Hello, everyone. This is Backyard Musings, broadcasting live from our living rooms. I'm Steve.
Yeah, we changed our format. I'm Scott.
Right, it's raining outside, so we switched it up a little bit. So we're in our living rooms, and today we're going to talk about invasions, whether there's an invasion occurring at the southern border of our nation. So, 10 million. What does that mean to you, Scott? 10 million.
Well, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of people, especially if you don't know who they are or what their intentions are or what their purpose is.
10 million people crossed the southern border since January 21st, 2021. Now, does that date have any significance to you, Scott?
Well, I believe that was the inauguration day of our president of the United States, Joseph Biden.
The Biden-Harris idiocracy officially started at noon on January 21st, 2021. And now we have 10 million people. Of that 10 million that have crossed the border illegally, 1.6 million are known as gotaways. A gotaway is where the Border Patrol sees you but cannot apprehend you. So you get away. 1.6 million. And how many of those that we don't know that snuck in that we don't know about? That's a known unknown. What about the unknown unknown?
Well, I'd like to believe that. If you want to call them gotaways, I'd like to lump them into the category of we don't know anything about any of these people for the most part.
Yeah, we're not taking biometrics. We're not recording why they're here, where they came from.
Right.
At least I don't think.
And they're not just coming from. They may be crossing our southern border, but they're not just coming from
Mexico.
The Latin countries south of our
or the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
Or the Western Hemisphere. It could become. Right. They've come from Haiti, from China, from Africa, Russia. Come from Iran, all over.
Yep.
Because the border is porous, open borders, and so those figures we told you were from the Washington Examiner. We didn't make them up. So the Supreme Court of the United States has never defined the term invasion, not ever. But it does appear twice in the Constitution. I'm going to test you on your civics here, Scott. Can you recite by heart the invasion clause, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3? Go.
No, I can't by heart. But I can read it. I got it right in front of me. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit delay.
Okay, Constitution says engage in war unless invaded. So that raises two questions. Are these people coming across the border wanting to engage in war, and is it an invasion? Okay, so that's questions to ask. So now the guarantee clause of Article 4, Section 4, Clause 1 says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion. So the federal government is supposed to protect us from invasion. Again, we don't have a definition. So I'm going to reach back to the Articles of Confederation that were signed in 1777. This was before the Constitution. Article 6, Clause 5 says, no state shall engage in any war without the consent of the United States and Congress assembled, unless such state be actually invaded by enemies. So now the Articles of Confederation says by enemies, but the Constitution does not. It just says invasion. So does that mean an armed force with ill intent, Scott? Is that what that means?
Well, the other thing I'd like to bring up, you mentioned war a couple times. It's been mentioned in these articles, and we are not. I wouldn't consider declaring war on these people that are coming across the United States, the border. We're trying to prevent them from coming, or at least vet them from coming, right? So, so I don't know. I got a little issue with that. But I don't know. It's all about invasion, and they are coming in. So take these articles at their word. They're invading.
The Supreme Court is eventually going to decide this, a definition for invasion, because these states are taking it into their own hands to stop these people from coming across the border illegally. So I looked up invasion on the internet, so it must be true. But you can Google what an invasion means, and we've got three definitions. An instance of invading a country or region with an armed force. For example, Britain invaded us in 1812. We call it the War of 1812. They sacked Washington, D.C., destroyed the White House. They went after New Orleans, and Andrew Jackson was the hero of the Battle of New Orleans. He saved us there. So an armed force, right? The next definition, an incursion by a large number of people or things into a place or sphere of activity. So people, things could be drugs, right? A large number of people or things into a place or sphere of activity.
Or it could be people.
It's people or things.
Right.
Those things could be drugs or weapons or whatever. Or COVID-19. Is that a thing? It's a virus. And the next definition, an unwelcome intrusion into another's domain. So that domain could be Texas, that domain could be Arizona, it could be California, or it could be the United States.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned Texas and Arizona, because those seems to be the only two states that you hear about that are actually trying to prevent this invasion.
Yeah.
You don't hear much from California, and you don't hear much from New Mexico, and that's pretty much the four states that take up the southern border.
Yeah. So, and when you're talking about in unwelcome in another's domain, it is the state. Is it Texas, Arizona, or California? So this talks about intrusion or incursion can be elements of invasion. There are proponents out there that say, does it mean entry and enmity? So if one person walks across, a hitman from New Zealand walks across to kill Jenny down the street, contract, has that person invaded the country? They have
Absolutely.
enmity.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so quantity doesn't matter. Quantity does not matter. All at once, coming across all at once, doesn't matter.
Well, the only thing that it matters is that it's probably easier to stop or detect one person than it would be 10 million.
Right. So does the duration matter? Like people coming across over a time period or locations, simultaneous people coming across, does that matter for an invasion?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, no, they're coming in without an invitation, and I don't believe that has any restriction on it at all.
So an illegal immigration on a large scale, like say 10 million in 3 years, that destabilizes cities, counties, and states. We're going to look at that tomorrow, but that does have a destabilizing effect across many dimensions. So if millions are crossing, does this incentivize Mexican drug cartels to control and profit from intrusion of people across the border?
Oh, absolutely. And I wouldn't even limit it to the cartels across the border. Organized crime from other countries, like you mentioned, from China, from Iran, the Middle East. They're all looking at this as prime territory to get whatever they want to get into this country without detection.
I was reading an article the other day. People were trying to get from South America, this man and his wife and daughter, and they were in Mexico. They made it to Mexico City, and they were afraid to get scooped up by cartels who knew they were trying to get to the border because they would extort them. They would take a tremendous amount of money or hurt their family to get across. I just read this article. Okay, cartels have criminal enterprises with members, associates, facilitators, and brokers in all 50 states and 100 countries. That's according to the Phase 2 Interim Report Committee on Homeland Security, published September of last year. They have They're in all 50 states. Drug cartels, associates, facilitators, and brokers in every single state.
That's scary.
Maybe the cartels are the enemy. I don't know. Cartel tactics include debt bondage, coercion, complex human trafficking, smuggling operations, stash houses, and drone operations with surveillance. This is again from that committee report back in September.
They are well funded.
Right.
They're like a military.
Well organized. Drug trafficking is a $30 billion enterprise. $30 billion. And I was doing some research on this, Scott. Fentanyl is the only illegal drug that has continually increased since 2021. All other drugs by weight have decreased. Heroin, marijuana, methamphetamines, that quantity has decreased. Fentanyl, it seems like there's a demand for fentanyl here in the United States. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you say a decrease of the drugs being smuggled, those drugs you mentioned being smuggled into the country?
Yes.
I think that's probably because a lot of those drugs are now being manufactured in this country, so they don't need to bring them across the border.
Right.
Another issue with the cartels.
Yeah. And fentanyl is the only one that went up. So we've talked about invasion. We don't have a definition. We're leaving it up to you. Are the cartels the enemy? Is there enmity? The cartel doesn't have to cross. They can send people across to invade our country.
Mules.
And associates, enterprises in each city. It sounds like a war and it sounds like an invasion to me, but we need to let you decide for yourself. Tomorrow, we're going to analyze this invasion, break it down by the numbers, and see and why. Why is this happening? Why is the government allowing this, the federal government? Got anything left, Scott?
I was going to say the only thing that I can think of as far as it happening is that it's a big money business, like we said, and there's a lot of people getting their take of that, unfortunately.
Yeah. And the taxpayers are not getting any cut of that. They're being burdened.
Right.
Thank you for joining us today. If you liked what you saw today, click subscribe. Tell your friends, your family, your enemies. Tell them to check it out and subscribe. We'll be here every day. Thanks, and talk to you later.
Have a good day.